focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. So welcome to Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and I am your host. Again, we are at episode number 56 right now. And I can't tell you how excited I am. I put out all these polls on my Instagram, and I asked people, who do you want me to have on, as a guest on the podcast? And we just got an overwhelming response for this next guest. His name is Joe Ward. He's a great husband, great father, great businessman, $1 million plus earner. 25 regional vice president locations and 850 licensed. This guy is absolutely killed it in his company and has done some amazing things. Not only has transformed his own life, but transformed the lives of his family, his wife, and his wonderful kids, and of course Twix and Snickers. That's the pets. So
that's right.
Who came up with that name, Joe?
You know what?
On the beach, Joe.
Yeah, that's awesome, Daniel. We're excited about to share with your listeners and try to help people in any way we can, in terms of moving their business and moving their overall life. I wish I could take credit for the unique names, but when we got the puppies from a breeder, we actually flew to Pennsylvania from Chicago to go to a breeder there because we have Shiba Inus, and then we drove back because we couldn't fly with those dogs, but they were already named, and we loved it, so it was great.
I love it. And so you have three kids: Maxwell, Malia, and Mary. Is that right? Mari. Okay. Yep. Mari, and of course your wife Melissa. You said
it right, Melissa. Yeah.
And so where did you guys meet? How did that all come about?
We actually met in the business, actually. She was in another organization. You know how that goes in Primerica. We're around Primericans all the time, and we're doing the business. It's kind of a big part of our life, and so I guess love finds you.
That's it. So tell me about Joe. I want to kind of go back a little bit, and I want to hear a little bit about your story and how you grew up. What was it like growing up in the Ward family?
Okay. Well, I actually, you mean all the way like back to childhood?
Yeah. I want to go all the way back.
Well, I actually, of course, my business is predominantly in Chicago, but I'm from Tennessee. So I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a city just right outside of Atlanta, really, about 30 minutes away from Atlanta. But I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was a sports guy. That was like really important to me. I played basketball, soccer predominantly, even ran a little cross country because the basketball coach made us do that. I actually did really well at cross country though. We were pretty much, we were the captain of every team we were ever on. One of the things we talk about from a business perspective, Daniel, is that there's no real surprises about who ends up winning in an industry like ours because you probably were winning somewhere else. So I was the captain of every team, president of this, president of that, all that kind of jazz. I ended up going to school at Austin Peay State University, which is in Clarksville, outside of Nashville, and joined a fraternity there. That was a pretty big part of my college experience. I was the president of my fraternity, all of that kind of jazz. So we ended up graduating. I got a double major in psychology, sociology. My whole thought process, and of course, like a lot of people, I changed my major about 3 times. It's funny because I went to college saying I wanted to be a physical therapist. Like I'm going into school because I was a sports guy, right? And I had a horrific ACL injury like my sophomore year, or I probably would have gone on to play. It's not even a problem. I would have gone on to play college soccer. But I tore my ACL. So I got a lot of experience with physical therapists. And I was talking to my physical therapist, and they were kind of talking about, what you could make and all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, you can make six figures, just kind of helping people with their injuries, and I could stay around sports. So I did, thought that. And then I went to my freshman year. I had a class called Human Anatomy 1.
Okay.
And Human Anatomy 1 was hard as hell. And I was like, I don't really know if this is for me. So I changed that a lot, but as I was my last couple of years, I said I wanted to be a lawyer. So my whole life, from that point on, I said I wanted to go to law school. Now, along the way, though, I started finding out that lawyers didn't make the type of money I thought they made. Now, I'm not talking about corporate lawyers. I'm not talking about, high level type of law. I'm talking about, where you got to start. They're making 40 grand, 50 grand. If you've ever had a speeding ticket or whatever, that's most lawyers with bad suits and bad shoes, right?
Right.
So I was kind of open. I'm still thinking I'm going the law route, but I was kind of open because I'd kind of been, I knew very clearly that I was probably 10 years away from what I considered to be some real money. So a fraternity brother of mine actually ended up, inviting me out to an op meeting. And it was funny because as a part of that story, it took him 6 months to get me to come to the office. And he was saying all the wrong stuff as people do, giving me all the information, giving it to me in a way that it wasn't palatable for me. But I eventually went on our relationship, which is what he should have said in the beginning. And so in going to the op meeting, that was what the vice president, I sat down with the vice president because it wasn't a big op meeting. There was very few people there. And that's the craziest thing too. There's like 3 people at the op meeting. You know how people have.
So Joe, I want to kind of slow you down a little bit because we're going to get into some of that. But I want to know a little bit about, like, what did your parents do growing up?
Okay.
What did your parents do?
Yeah.
And what kind of kid were you?
Entrepreneurs.
Were you a good kid? Were you a good kid growing up? I mean,
okay, I'll give you that in pieces. Let's say that. Okay, so I was actually adopted. I was an only child, and I was adopted at 3 years old. I was born in New York. That's an interesting story. My father adopted me from Tennessee, a kid in New York. It's the craziest thing in the world. I'll make that really short. But so he had 3 things that he did. So he was a banker. That was his job, regular job. But he also taught driving education like 3 days a week after school at one of the local high schools. And he and my grandmother owned a florist. So that was a weekend thing, funerals and things like that. So we had a florist shop, all that kind of jazz. So I saw him work really hard. He had a lot of ways, and all of that was so I could go to private school. We lived in a great neighborhood. I grew up what would feel like upper middle class, but he was working really hard to keep all that together.
So you kind of hit the adoptive parent lotto, though.
Yeah, things went well for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it worked out good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you asked, was I a good kid? I liked to, in my younger age, I liked to talk a lot. And again, all these things, leave clues, right? I was very antsy, very communicative, wanted to make the kids laugh, all that kind of. I'm an only child as well, so this is my interaction. This is my playtime. School was, because I didn't have anybody to do that with at home. So early childhood, before I really got into sports, I was always getting in trouble. Whatever little marks you're going to get on the board, I had plenty of those. But once I got sports to kind of get my energy out and all that kind of jazz. Yeah, I was your typical regular kid.
That's cool. And so, fast forward all these years, you went to school, you went to college, and you get out, and all of a sudden this guy comes and talks to you about this business. And so how did he approach you, and kind of re-explain a little bit of how he approached you? And you kind of said that he didn't really, he could have done it a better way. Maybe teach us
Well,
something
I
here.
think it would be better, Daniel, but how my frat brother got to me, who got to him, who got to me.
Okay.
And I think that is just tremendous, because I'm always telling people, in a business like ours, or business period, nothing happens haphazardly. I know it may not be, all of your listeners or subscribers are believers, but for those who are, everything that happens in our lives are orchestrated, right? There is a plan that was set in motion for you before you were ever born. And if you ever were to chart back the small integral details, that if they had not happened, whatever happened for you positively would have never happened, you would know that it didn't just happen. Like, I don't believe in this word that people call luck. Like, you can call it, I would rather use the word a blessing than luck. I don't really believe in the word luck. Unless I win the lottery, and then I'm going to say I was extremely lucky. God is not involved in
Well, I mean, you were extremely blessed too. So
the lottery, right. But the point is, so check this out. So the guy that, and now picture this, my frat brother, I'll make this short. My frat brother was a manager at Blockbuster Video. I do this like in schools a lot, Daniel, to kind of get people to understand, how this thing can get going for him. So he was a manager at a Blockbuster Video, and so there was a part-time district leader that was what he would consider himself to be a country music singer. Now, remember, I joined in Nashville. So he was a part-time country music singer. I always tell people he looked like the lead singer from REO Speedwagon. Remember them? He
yeah.
had the kind of a curly fro thing, which on Caucasians doesn't really look that cool. And he had a big Seth Rogen type deal,
Oh,
so
man.
He kind of had a little ducktail to go along with that. So I can picture him in the parking lot of that Blockbuster Video, agonizing in his car about going to prospect. And so if he doesn't get out of that car and get the gumption up to go into that store with the purpose of prospecting, point number one, I'm not here. Okay, my organization's not here, right? So number two, he walks in and he says, like, it's just like in the old movies where they would come into a planet and the aliens come in, and the first thing they're going to say is, take me to your leader. See, when we're prospecting anybody when we should be saying, take me to your leader. So when he walked in, he said the first thing, now you know this, but your listeners don't. Can I speak to your manager, was what he said. So my frat brother was the manager. Now, he could have talked to the guy that was putting the videos out on the shelf and nothing would have happened. He said the manager, because the manager knows people like him, which was me.
Right.
So he goes in, can I speak to your manager? That was point number two. He said the exact same thing, the right thing he should have said. Point number three was, he said, are you keeping your options open to make additional income? That was it. I mean, we talk to our people about these very simple things to say, and he said that. And of course, I always tell people, if you ask Bill Gates, hey, you keep your options open to make additional income? I am. But hey, Oprah, you keep your options open? Zuckerberg, you keep your options open? Every single one of them, I'm going to say yes. Now, that's not saying they want to do business with you, but they are keeping their option open. It's a setup. So he said yes. So he actually gets involved. Then it was 6 months. After that, he puts together his list. I'm on the list. He's saying all the wrong things. We're going to get rich selling life insurance. Well, no, I want to be a lawyer. I got a plan. 10 years from now, I'm making $250 a year, which was my goal. My goal, if you had asked me, which the RVP did in that meeting, hey, what's your dream income? $250. Do that without hesitating, right? So $250,000 in Nashville, Tennessee, you're doing pretty good, right? And so finally, as opposed to that Primerica talk or all that talk, right? He finally, pretty much kind of cursed me out and put it on our relationship. He really, really did. He put it on our relationship. All I've done for you, and man, we've been close like this, and I've been here for you. This, I'll let you borrow some money. And I'm like, okay, buddy, fine, I'll go. I was really serious about coming to that meeting. Back then, I was still playing basketball as if somebody was going to sign me, though I was 23 years old, right? So I said, okay, I will go to the meeting. There are two conditions. And I literally said this: I am not joining and I am not buying. but I will come to support you, which is all we're asking people to do.
That's it. That's it. And by the way, Joe, yeah, by the way, I mean, that's the key right there, is that sometimes if somebody just comes to support you, they don't even, like, you think that person making $100,000 a year, they would never be interested in what we're doing or joining you in business. But the truth is I don't really care whether they're interested or not. I just want them to come check it out. Let me get them in the room, and let's let the leader take care of the rest.
100%. And that's what happened in the meeting. And just from our perspective, I saw a combination of two dramatic things. I can take that further if you'd like, but I saw the marriage of financial services and distribution, which I had never seen before. I didn't understand. I understood the two separate entities, but not them together. And that's the reason why I decided to join.
Hey, let me change gears a little bit, because I'm actually really interested, because you're an educated dude. I mean, you're a pretty smart guy, and obviously you know, a lot of schooling you went through. Okay. And because I'm very interested, I'm real big on understanding people's thoughts about education and about school. Tell me about your thoughts in today's world when it comes to education and schooling, and, you know, the massive amounts of education that people are getting today.
Yeah, I think it's for some.
Okay.
I think it depending on what your long-term career path is, you can't really avoid it. If, for example, you're going to be a high-level mechanical engineer, well, you're going to have to go to school for a long time. You see, but I believe that as a society, we have to get away from absolutes when it comes to it, meaning, well, everybody goes. Because now statistics and whatnot are showing us that if you do go and get a college degree, it's not going to guarantee you that you're going to make a substantial income increase because you have it. There's really I guess you would say, Daniel, there's a choice people have to make, and there's two roads there. You go get experience, or you go get a degree. And pretty much it's just kind of, how are you wired, right? You know, if you're a school person and school doesn't really bother you, great. You know, then go ahead and go get your degree, whatever the case may be. But if you're ready to just go get money, it's probably better for you to go ahead and get in the marketplace. You can go get a degree later. I mean, that's literally the case. Now, what am I going to tell my children, right? To me, I want my girls, because my son's already 21 and he's going the experience, work, chase your dream route, right? He's trying to do the music thing, right? But for my girls, which are 8 and 6, I want them to go to college not for the degree, but for the life experience, right? And I'm not going to pay a cajillion dollars for that to happen.
Right.
That makes sense. Like we're not going to Stanford for you to get the life experience.
Right.
We're going to go to a state school, and you're going to, go to class and learn how to get discipline and focus and all that kind of stuff, social skills at a higher level. But I could give a damn about the degree. You don't even have to finish, to be quite honest. The only reason you have to finish is to finish something you started. But if you find something that lights your fire, then go ahead and drop out, like Bill Gates or whoever the case may be.
I love it. I love it. I love the way that you think, Joe. I mean, that is so well said, what you just said. And I hope people understand that. Look, I mean, I'm not anti-education. I talk a lot about how I never enjoyed school myself. It was never fun for me. I never pursued it. Only reason why I went to college for the short time I did was to play sports. Once I hurt my knee, I was done with sports. I was done with college. I mean, simple as that. I've gotten the marketplace. I started making money 21 years old. By the time I was 28, I was financially independent. So that can be the story for a lot of people like me. And I get it. My daughter, she'll probably end up going to college because she wants to play soccer. And she wants that experience to play soccer and sports. And now my son, he may or may not go. But, whatever. Look, at the end of the day, man, let's treat people as human beings, as individuals, to say, like you said, get rid of the absolutes. And let's say, hey, look, is school right for this person? If it is, then let's do it. If it's not, then that's okay too. I love that, Joe. Well
you know
said.
what I would add to that too, Daniel, is, and we don't say this a lot, but it's very valuable in the marketplace today to have a skill. Like everybody doesn't, their mind doesn't work from a standpoint of some type of corporate job. Like especially a lot of our middle class children, a skill is tremendous today, right? And that don't require all this schooling, right? And you can make a great income, a great living, have a great lifestyle to go and pursue a skill, right? Just like, the 4 years, because in 4 years of college, what skill did you develop? So you could develop in a trade school in a year or 2 years, something that could pay you 6 figures for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah.
You may not wear a tie every day, but everybody doesn't want to wear a tie every day.
So when you got in business, Joe, did you ever get criticized? Did anybody criticize you? Did anybody put you down? I mean, did you have any haters back then? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I didn't. And let me tell you why. I do understand that there are a lot of people that are going to experience that. But let me tell you why I didn't. Because we already explained that I was a leader.
Right.
So I had a lot of credibility with people that knew me. I don't think we had this category in high school, but I really believe I'd have been one or two most likely to succeed. Now we did have best dressed, and I was that. But we didn't have a most likely to succeed as some other schools, and I really believe that I would have really been in the running for that. So I wasn't going to get a lot of criticism. It was really, I actually got a lot of support, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that just kind of depends on, in business where relationship marketing is a part of it. It's all about how you came to the table, and that is going to be what you deal with, right? So what has been your past credibility in other things? The scripture says, let your yes be yes and let your no be no. So if you weren't like that before business, well, then they're going to deal with you in the same fashion in business. Now, what I would tell your listeners is that can really be overcome by you developing yourself and working on yourself and getting better. And I always tell people is you're not going to get like what we say regional vice president, but whatever the level is, because I know your listeners do all kinds of different things. So whatever the level you're trying to attain in business, you're not going to get there with the people you know. So it doesn't matter anyway. The only thing that they can do is take you out mentally and sabotage your future success. See, it's going to be, our reception is better with strangers than family and friends. But I always say in our business, in the industry we're in, is that the only thing your families and friends can do is help you to get to your first couple of promotions by just kind of helping you out. They can't do any more for you. Your best friend is not going to be one of your top leaders in your organization. And I know there are examples in Primerica where that happens, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands where it didn't happen. So
right.
Criticism is going to happen. There's going to be adversity you got to deal with in terms of, friends and family. Just don't get sidetracked unless you want their life. I think you should listen to people whose life you want.
Right.
So if you're dealing with it, but that's the craziest thing. If you ever talk to somebody about, especially our industry and our company that has money, that is already successful, and they're going to tell you, makes sense, do it.
Right.
But your poor cousin living in their mama basement, scam.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, for me, I didn't have credibility growing up. I was a bad kid. I was one of the bad boys. I got in a lot of trouble. Me and the principal, man, we were best buddies, man. And so that was Daniel Alonzo. So when I got into business, nobody believed me. Nobody trusted me. So I took a lot of heat, man. I took a lot. And plus I'm hanging out with all these, probably people that maybe weren't going to be so successful. And so what happened is they were portraying their lack of confidence onto me, versus if I would have been hanging out with people like you'd have been like, yeah, go for it, Daniel. Try it, man. You can do this. You got this. Just study and work hard and be disciplined and get focused and do all the shit you have to do. And then you'll get to where you want to go. So yeah, what you're saying is right on, Joe. Tell me, I mean, did you have any struggles in the business? Tell me about
that's another story. Now we started off with a lot of credibility and
right.
all of that kind of jazz. But yes, we had a tremendous amount of obstacles we dealt with, really going back to the beginning. So we had a lot of credibility. So we moved to to our first couple of levels of promotion pretty quickly. Less than a couple of months. So we were moving pretty quick because we had a lot of credibility. But once we ran out of those people that we knew and we had not really been taught a referral system or a system that could perpetuate that initial success, then I had to get into more of I guess what we consider the nasties and whatnot. And I wasn't very good at that due to, my lack of confidence and all of that kind of jazz. So we initially, let's give this part of the story that maybe some of your listeners don't know. In our industry with our company, regional vice president is the goal, kind of like a broker in real estate, that sort of thing. And that's kind of where, okay, you're moving in the right direction to really do something special. Well, it took me 5 years to get there. Right now, if you ask me, so what's the frame of reference? Well, somebody that's really focusing on it should get there maybe 18, 24 months. So it was double that time for me. But there was a lot of things going on there. I mean, we've had houses foreclosed on. We've had cars repossessed. We've had all of those sorts of things. We get to vice president. My first year as a vice president, I've had a couple of teams quit. Like actual, you got 20, 30 people, and those teams quit, and I was making $8,000, $10,000 a month. And I go down to 2,000. We lost a baby along the way, premature birth. The year we lost the baby, that was my first marriage, and the year we lost the baby premature birth, in our industry, life insurance, we had a substantial contract reduction to where instead of making my full compensation, I was making about half of that for an entire year. So I made, that was my lowest year. I think that was 2003. That was my lowest year income. That year I made $13,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I was RVP.
Wow.
I made $2,000 in a year. My office rent was $1,800 a month. I made $13,000. He said, well, wow. that doesn't make sense. Well, I pretty much survived that year on payday loans.
Wow.
Still field training people, still working with them, doing all those things.
So looking back, Joe, what's something, because look, you ain't the only one. All right. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are going through. I mean, we just had a regional vice president last year came to me. I didn't have a big relationship with them. And they came to me, they were at 27,000 in income. And this was last year. In 365 days, they took their income to 120,000.
Awesome.
But I get what you're saying. I mean, when they came to us, this was like stress. This is a very stressful time. I mean, what would you say is one of the things or a couple of the things that maybe you should have done differently? Like, where did you mess up?
Oh yeah, that's really simple. Well, the first thing I had this propensity over that period of time to what we call go into management too soon. I was really, really good at getting 20, 30 people together. And now in retrospect, it was almost like a governor, like on a car, the governor, there's only so fast that you can push the car and it'll stop you. And so mentally I had that in place, like that was a team, like this is something substantial, because, even at that time, obviously it pays you a whole lot more today, but 20, 30 people back then would pay you about 10 grand. $8,000 to $10,000. I'm making that in override. And so I was going into management and I would stop working. And so now I'm working with my people. I'm not getting any new people. I'm not field training. I'm not doing all these various things. I'm not driving the car myself, right? And we know as leaders now, well, that's just, eventually this is a disaster. You're nowhere near big enough for that to happen. So I would go into management way too fast. I would totally overestimate what I had. Now this is ridiculous now, Daniel, at our level of knowledge, but I would look at this team of maybe 25 people, let's call it, and say, well, these 3 out of this group will be vice presidents, and then I will go to the next level. Well, that's insane. Now, if I had 100, I could look in and go, these 3, and I'm probably would be pretty sure that's going to happen. So I would overestimate. And what it would be is, I need you to be a vice president more than you actually are one. So I can't project that onto you. So that was mistakes that I was making.
Did you ever were you ever at that moment of like throwing in the towel though? I mean, were you ever at that moment?
I think that when you talk to a leader in business and ask them, did they ever think about quitting? And if that person says to you they didn't, holler bullshit real fast, right?
It did pop in your mind.
And so you say, well, why didn't I? And people have asked me that if I tell like the entire story and all the, with the hair and the fangs and the teeth, of the whole thing. If I tell people this very honestly, if I had somewhere else to go that was going to pay me what I believe what was kind of minimum wage in our company, if I applied myself, that number was my 250. I believe that I could get that 250, right? If I just hung in there and get it together. Not $500,000, $1 million. I couldn't conceptualize that at that time. We would say it, we put it on gold cards, but I didn't really believe it. I didn't really even believe I could go over $1 million till I was at about 500,000-600,000. That was just, I could kind of see it then. But the point is that along the way, if somebody would have offered me that 250,000 elsewhere, I'd have been out of here. But guess what? Nobody was going to, and I knew no one was going to do that. Look, State Farm or Allstate or Edward Jones wasn't about to call me and say, hey, we heard the great things you're doing with your company. We would love for you to come and run these 3-4 branches for us and blah, blah, blah. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. And I knew it. So I had to kind of work it out, if that made sense. But if I had somewhere else to go, I promise you I would have went.
Hey, everybody, this is Wealth on the Beach podcast with Daniel Alonzo. I have special guest Joe Ward with us today, multi-millionaire in business, and created just an amazing financial services company and has transformed the lives of just countless people. 25 locations today. Numerous people making over $400,000, $500,000, $100,000 earners. Really has helped a lot of people do better. And we're talking about the struggle. We're talking about business. And if you think that you're going to get out of business unscathed, if you think that this thing is just going to be rainbows and sunshines, you got another thing coming. Business is hard. Business is tough. But when you make it, it is so worth it. And so, look, Joe, what's it like to make $1 million a year? What's it like, man?
Well, I always tell people, because everybody's concept of money is different. So what one person would say is impressive that you do or could do with the money is not significant to another. So I'm always telling people that the more money you make, it doesn't have to be per se $1 million. I mean, when I was doing all this struggle that I was doing that we were just talking about, I mean, you were making $500,000 and had been making that for years and years and years and years and years. It's not really so much about a destination. It's really about the choices that you can make. depending on what moves you. You know, I tell people one of the things that the couple of things that are exciting for me. Yet we're doing all that. You know, we've got like a $1.5 million home. We've got the cars. We travel all the time. We do all that stuff. But it's $2,000 a month for my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old to go to private school.
Right.
These are things that are important to me, right? Both of them, I put $1,000 a month into their 529 plans. When they're 25 years old, they'll have a $500,000 apiece. Like,
Love
see,
it.
if I had a regular job, you know, but I wouldn't be able to do that. We're actually just in a kind of an undisclosed city right now that we're kind of looking at whether or not we're going to do some expansion into. But we're here for 3 or 4 days right now. We're just here just to feel it, right? Just to
Right.
talk to people. But guess what? We booked this like Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, so we just flew to a city, got a hotel. You know, we're gonna go out to eat. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do the deal. We'll be in Aruba in a couple weeks. 3 weeks after that, we'll be in Jamaica. You know, 3 weeks after that, we'll be in the Bahamas. You know, it's just kind of like these are things we can do. We're big concert goers. I'm a big music fan. So, I mean, we do all of that. We'll travel for a concert, you know. This is crazy now, and then we'll get back to your next question. But it talks about the options, right? So this is band is named Bon Iver, right? Bon Iver. But nonetheless, I really like this band, and I was gonna miss them in Chicago, and so I had to look around and see where else they're gonna be. I was within 30 minutes of booking this trip, right? And the point, because he was going to be in Montana, so I was going to fly to Montana. Can you imagine the flight from Chicago to Montana? Like, this isn't an easy flight, right? Straight flight as well, right?
Right.
Go there, you stay, you watch a concert, you come back. I could have done it.
Right.
I had the money to do it. It was no big deal. Joe, well, why didn't you go to the concert? Then I started thinking, as an African-American male going to Montana to go see
All by yourself, huh?
Yeah, I said, you know what? Nah.
Wait a minute. We'll think about it twice.
But it is.
Hey,
it's about the options.
I want, yeah, and really that's what it comes down to. And I think that's what I want, because really what we talk about on this podcast more than anything is really business and building massive passive residual income. I mean, that really is the dream, is to be free. And I think that's what everybody has to realize, is that your life as well as my life, we have different options. I mean, you make, $80,000+ a month, basically whether you get out of bed or not. And so you're in a situation where the money keeps coming, even though you don't necessarily have to be out writing sales. Right. And so now you can write sales, and I'm sure you still do from time to time, and you're always looking for great people. So just FYI to everybody, if you're in the Chicago area and you're looking for somebody, to coach you, to mentor you, to take you under their wing, there's no question in my mind, Joe Ward would help you, and he would teach you, and he would coach you. But I think people don't realize what a dream it is. Because look, there's a lot of people that make $1 million a year. It's $1 million a year is not the special part. The special part is the $1 million a year without having to show up to an office every single day, and $1 million a year where we get to keep most of our $1 million. If you're a corporate executive and you're making $1 million, the government's keeping almost half of that.
Correct.
So we get to keep the majority because we're business owners. So what do you think about that, Joe?
Well, the freedom side, that's why I'm here. That's why I invested the time. My whole thought process, I never came here to be a salesman. Now, I totally understood, and this would be beneficial to some of your, up and coming business leaders. You have to understand what season you are in, but you have to make preparation for the season you want to be in. So you got to know, okay, well, right now, this is my personal effort season, right? I've got to move the product because I've got a mortgage to pay and I've got a car note to pay and all of these various things. But in my day-to-day movements, though, I am preparing myself for the harvest of an organization that will allow me to not have to do that. So
Right.
people misidentify what season they are in. But with that being said, that was always the goal. What I understood, and Daniel, you did this exact same thing in building your business. I understood that I needed to recruit people, attract people into the business that I could train. The way I always saw it, if you could think of it visually, in our industry, we talk about going to people's kitchen table. We go to their house, we give them a presentation. So to me, the way I visualize this, and people should visualize it, is picture yourself, Daniel, you're at the kitchen table, you're sitting there doing a presentation. Now, what your goal should be is to have someone with you. That's so key. Like when I tell you people, $100,000 earners in our company are out sitting down, people talking to them about an opportunity by themselves, and it's just insane, right? Okay, so if I've got a person with me, that means that I can take up one step back from the kitchen table because I'm going to leave that person in place. Then I go to another kitchen table, right? And I'm training another person, right? Then I can leave that person there and I can take another step back from the kitchen table. As I do that over a year or 2 years or 3 years, eventually I can't even see the kitchen table. Because the kitchen tables, here's the thing I tell people, the kitchen tables have to be done. They just don't necessarily have to be done by you. Somebody's got to do it. Now, we're going to have our season to where we are doing it, but we are doing it purposefully. I'm not doing it so this person buys a life insurance policy and gets an investment. If they do that, wonderful, and I'm going to do my best job to try to do that because I'm trying to train this person. But I don't really give a shit if you buy or not. I need to train this person so that I can move. I want to keep moving. I want to keep moving. I want to keep moving. And eventually, if I can get to a place, and today I consider this place I'm describing 1,000 people, right? 1,000 people. I'm not really saying 1,000 code numbers. And I understand all the terminology and the way people think. But if I can have an event and 1,000 people show up, then I ain't got to come nowhere near a kitchen table ever again for any reason. And I could change my cell phone number and it wouldn't affect my business one iota. See, that's the dream for me. I'm not going to change my cell phone number, but what I'm telling you is that's the thought process. And that's how I started the business, whether that is good times, bad times, I'm going. And you say, well, where are you at, Joe? Well, we can get about 400 people in a room right now. You know what I mean? In my organization, we can get about 400 people in a room. So I can't be like, oh, I'm not going to do Primerica anymore. I'm not looking for people. I'm not going to train anybody. Well, then I can't change my cell phone number with 400 people. I change my cell phone number with 400 people. I'm going to be making 20 grand.
And I think this is the challenge with so many people is they get out of the field way too early. And you said it yourself. I mean, we overestimate where we're really at. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. Even there's regional leaders that think they're somewhere where they're not yet. And it's like, wait a minute, if you don't got 30, 40 people showing up to a meeting and you're not pumping out, $20,000 to $30,000 in production every month, you're really not ready to go to that next level. And so, but I think that ultimately what you just described was duplication. I talk a lot about process. I talk a lot about duplication, and I talk a lot about selling the dream and the vision. And what you described is the duplication part, where everybody misses this. And this is why I believe, Joe, is our total focus is recruit, recruit, recruit. And yes, I want to recruit 1 million people. But what happens is if we're only focused on recruiting, we forget the duplication part. Because we're so focused on getting the next recruit, we forget to actually train the one that we got.
Well, that's big too, because I was listening to a Mike Tuttle disc the other day. And I just got my hands on it at a fast start school. It was literally a CD, right? And he talked about the concept of why do people every month in and month out, do 20 by 20. Right. What'd you do 6 months ago? 20 by 20. What'd you do 6 months before that? 20 by 20. Okay, so help me understand. This is my total talking. So you just recruited 240 people and you're doing the same numbers. What that means is the person doesn't understand how to process people.
Right.
You see, like, I understand we should get more directs. I understand that. I got you. That's going to help hedge your bets in terms of the law of averages and the laws of large numbers. I understand. But it's kind of like in the spiritual world, they call that being a good steward. A good steward over what God has blessed you with, right? So if you just, the previous month, you just recruited 20 people. I don't care who they are, market, out of the market, I don't care. How does that not become 40 people the next month?
Right, right.
Obviously, you had to have some people to help you get to 20. And now you got 20 more hands on deck, and you came up with 20 more people. What that means is that you did not train. You did not take the time. Okay, here we go. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put together a list. We're going to send out some text messages. We're going to make some calls together. We're going to invite some people to the op meeting. We're going to go see some people. Now, if that was happening with individuals, a vice president's field trainer, with every single recruit, multiplication would occur. It would have no choice of doing that. But okay, you've got 3 recruits here, and you're not really working with them. You've told them some things to go do, and they're not going to go do those things. They're babies. See, brand new associates in our business are babies. So how long do you leave babies unattended?
Not very long.
I mean, not even 5 minutes. Like, no, not even 5 minutes do you do that. Like when you first have a baby, you have a baby, and the baby's over in the little crib that sits right by the bed. You're waking up every hour like, you okay? You okay? You put your hands, you all right? Right? But we don't do that with brand new associates.
Oh,
and that's why they never grow up to be adults.
Unbelievable. Great stuff, man. I swear we could do this all day long, Joe. This was an incredible podcast, and so much value, so many little nuggets, man. We can't get out of the field so early. We got to make sure that we recruit the right people. We got to make sure that we go find leaders. This is what I got out of today. We got to go find some leaders. We got to go find some people that have the centers of influence, and ultimately we have to duplicate ourselves with other people and understand where we're really at. I always like to ask a couple of last questions, just real quick. First thing that pops in your mind, favorite book?
Mind Power by John Kehoe.
Favorite movie?
Unusual Suspects.
Okay. Favorite food?
Something that's Asian.
Ice cream or cake?
Cake.
And the last thing is, do you have a favorite comedian?
Oh, wow. Oh. Dave Chappelle.
All right. Hey, all I know is if you are in the Chicago area, all of you, please go find Joseph Ward. Can you give us a place that we can find you, either on Instagram or phone number or whatever?
Yeah. My Instagram is Joe Ward PFS 84. My Instagram is Joe Ward PFS 84. You can find me pretty Googled on regular contact information and all that kind of jazz.
Right. Awesome. And look, I'm asking everybody to do me a huge favor. You've just listened to this podcast. We are bringing massive value to you. The only thing I ask from you is to share this podcast. Follow me on Instagram. Follow Joe. on Instagram. We're still, just want to remind everybody, we're still signing people up every day for our Wealth on the Beach Club. It's 1 hour with me every single Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Lessons and Q&A. Check out our website, alonzoacademy.com, for more details. And as always, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for lots and lots of free content. I want you all to dream bigger than ever, but make sure that you do it now. God bless. See you at the top.